I'm now going to introduce Congressman Seth Magaziner, who is going to talk about H.R. 1. And prior to Congress, he was the general treasurer of the state of Rhode Island. Seth?
Great. Oh, good morning. I'm here as a member of the Natural Resources Committee to talk about H.R. 1. But first, let me just say that as a parent of a 1-year-old, I know that when I get home to Rhode Island later this week, I'm going to hug my son a little harder, thinking about how there are parents in Nashville who aren't going to get to do that again. And we cannot let this become normal. Gun violence is now the leading cause of death of children in this country. That is not normal. More children killed by gun violence than by automobile accidents. It didn't used to be that way. It's not that way in other parts of the world. We cannot normalize this. We cannot let the Republicans continue to delay action on common sense gun safety bills. And we stand ready to work with anyone in good faith that is willing to put children ahead of the gun companies. But I'm here today primarily to talk about H.R. 1, the Polluters Over Peoples Act. And as a Congress, when it comes to energy policy, we have two jobs. Number one, to make energy affordable for consumers. Number two, to protect the environment. This bill does neither of those things. It does not lower costs for consumers, and it does not protect our environment. If the Republicans were serious about doing these things, they would have voted for the Inflation Reduction Act last year, which made historic investments in clean energy, which also opened the door for more conventional energy. They voted no, every one of them. The Inflation Reduction Act also had $1 billion in it to improve agency staffing to speed up the permitting process for energy. They all voted against that too, because I guess it had Joe Biden's name on it, and that for them was more important than lowering costs or transitioning to clean energy. If you want to talk about lowering energy costs for consumers, we have to talk about the fact that the oil and gas industry made $300 billion of profits last year, not revenue, profits. ExxonMobil made $6 million a minute. The profits of the big 5 oil companies alone were equivalent to $600 per American citizen last year. So if we're going to have a real conversation about lowering costs for consumers, we need to talk about the runaway profits that the oil and gas industry is making, price gouging American consumers. But of course, the Republicans don't want to talk about that. Why? It might have something to do with the $23 million that the oil and gas industry contributed to Republican campaign accounts last year. And that doesn't include their support of dark money groups. $23 million. They took $23 million to protect $300 billion of profits. I think the Republicans should have held out for more. They sold themselves out too cheap. But this bill will roll back important environmental protections. It'll do nothing about the fact that the oil and gas industry is sitting on 9,000 unused leases because they want the prices to stay high. That's the bottom line. They want to make it easier to circumvent environmental regulations, get more leases, and sit on them unused to keep prices high. So that's why, as a caucus, we oppose this bill. That's why every Democrat in the Natural Resources voted against it. And that's why we know it's dead on arrival in the Senate and the White House. And with that, I want to yield to our newest member, who I'm very excited to get to know,